Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Thursday, October 31st, the year 2019. Happy Halloween! Let's talk trading. It's time for the monthly wrap up, last day of the month. I hope everybody out there had a profitable month. And there's a few things I want to go over. Probably go over them next week in depth. Oh, by the way, I'm okay. The reason why there wasn't a video yesterday, I was traveling. I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a 7:30 flight. So anyway, all is well here, and I hope you guys weren't too concerned why I didn't post a video. I thought about doing one at the airport, but it just seemed too noisy, so that's okay. Um, I get email and messages, replies from, different traders from time to time, and I got one where the trader, you know, was having a little trouble with the pivots, and then so they moved on to the inside bar and just nailed it, and they thanked me. And so for that trader, tried one thing, didn't work, moved on to something else, found success. Other traders, they get stuck on over analyzing and trying to get down to the nitty gritty. And what both traders have in common, or both types of traders, is it all has to do with confidence. You know, one type of trader is confident that they'll find something that works. And they'll try one thing for a while, doesn't work, they'll move on to the other. But they're moving forward. They're not getting stuck. Where the other trader, they don't have confidence, so they'll take a step, or they'll look at something, and then they want to look a little bit deeper, and then analyze it just a little bit deeper, and then and on and on and on, and they just never seem to go anywhere. And it was kind of funny because last night after I got back, I went out. A friend invited me to watch something at the movie theater that he had worked on, and then it was the World Series, so I watched his thing for a while. But then I wanted to go to the game, so I went to local places where I watch sports and shoot pool. And while I was away, I hurt my left index finger, and that's one of the fingers I use, that the pool cue rests on. Anyway, long story short, the thing about confidence is that when I shoot pool, if I worry about the shot or missing, my chances of making it fall below 50-50. But last night I wasn't concerned with that. In fact, I was watching the game, so I really wasn't 100% concentrating. So when my turn would come up, I'd walk away from the game, grab the stick, chalk it up, and then bam, 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 balls were dropping in. I mean, I was making some incredible shots. But the thing is that I wasn't doing anything to shake my confidence. I wasn't really concerned about it at all. I mean, there was a streak where I missed like 3 shots in a row. I mean, the ball looked like it went dead in the pocket and wobbled out. And that can really throw me into a tailspin. But I forgot about it, went back to the game, and then, in fact, we were playing partners. I think my partner and we only lost one game last night. So the thing is, what that has to do with trading is that you're only going to get confidence by having successes. So sometimes the success has to come before the confidence, because there's only certain things you can control in trading. So that's going to be the segue into the money and risk management screen. You put a trade on. So long as you put your stop loss, you set your stop loss, you can be confident that that's the worst thing that's going to happen. And it doesn't matter how much analysis, I don't care if you have a supercomputer. Each trade could be a winner, could be a loser. You just don't know. So let's get into it. For the week, all the gaps have filled. But what we're really talking about here is the monthly wrap up. So let's look here. Let's bring up the monthly chart here. And you can see here we're 5 pips above the open on the month. I mean, obviously we broke out of the previous month's upper wick zone, both directions. So for those wick zone traders, I mean, here you go. You take that trade, you put your stop loss on. And one trader was asking me about the range and how to calculate range. I said, range is just high minus low. I said, are you talking about average range or average true range? And then they want to get into that. And I said, you know, the thing about the average range or any averages is all it takes are 1 or 2 super outliers and it throws the average way off. And that's one of the reasons I look at the frequency distributions, because you can see where most of the action is. So for example, you know, you could have an average range of say 65, but most of the range for that period or the periods you're testing could have been in the 40s. So you're thinking it's going to move 60, but you know, there might have been a couple 100s that threw it off. So you got to be real careful. You know, that's why you have to use a combination of tools sometimes and not just one. But you can see here the other thing, the dollar yen came down, hit the previous month's midpoint, and then went through it and then came back across it. That's one of the reasons why I like these midpoints. Let's see, we need to put that back to the daily here. And you can see what happened here today, right through that lower wick zone. You know, I talk about the wick zones a lot because there's something that we can all agree on where they're located, because we're talking about the previous day's open, high, low, and close. We're just drawing horizontal lines. The only difference is one broker may be a pip or two off than another, but bottom line is they're pretty much the same. And you can see here how price has returned or exited. Let's see. This was the opening day of the year, first trading day of the year right there. You see how price exited that level. And it also, here's the first day of the week. You see it exited that level to the north yesterday and to the south today. Simple horizontal line trades that we can all do, right? But remember, boys and girls, fellow traders, these videos are for educational purposes only, and your results may differ from mine. And that when you get involved in trading, it's very, very, very risky. You can lose all your money. And because of that, if you need guidance, you should seek it from an accredited financial professional, somebody that has received their certificates. That way, when they lose your money or you lose your money, taking their advice, you know it was advice or actions of an accredited financial professional, rather than some random person you heard on a YouTube video or on some other trading website. Okay, that being said, you can see here where prices return to the opening day of the month. And if we scrunch this chart, you can see this action here for the month. We went up, we went down, and then we're coming almost right back to that open. But here you see the opening day of the month range, how many times price dipped in and came back out, and how price exited. So once again, simple horizontal line trades. You know, no squigglies were harmed in the making of this video. And here we go on the week, the weekly open. Okay, you see here how price returned to the weekly open. We had some crisscrossing, and then just earlier in the evening, if you're here on the West Coast, you can see probably during that London session, it went through the weekly open and continued south for about 50 some pips. And on the weekly range, we've got 123. And I think if we shift this chart to monthly, or does it stay weekly? Yeah, I think it stays weekly. But we can look at the, we can just change that real quick here. TRO range gauge. Chart period. 1 month. And for the month, 279 pips. And you can see high to open 121, open to low 158. There's pips to be made there. There are pips to be made. Inside bar, like that one trader is just, he's just nailing it. I think he had a couple of trades over 100 pips and he was up 40 some pips on the current one. So here you see daily inside bar, a little peak out there. So here's one where, okay, maybe you took that trade, maybe you got stopped out, maybe you scratched it. But then here, taking it on the other side, you more than made up for it. And right here, there's the weekly inside bar. Okay, and you can see here that was last week how we exited. And I think if we switch over to the week chart, you might be able to see that right there, inside bar both ways. Range, we've only had 5 over 100 so far today. But once again, showing breaking out of that previous day's low to the south side. Oh, yesterday was FOMC, so that was one of the reasons there was so much movement. Okay, here we've got the daily H1 highest open, and here we put in a weekly lowest H1, weekly H1 lowest open right here this past hour. You can see here price tested it and has bounced back. And the computers froze up a bit. Okay, here we go. Now we missed the pivot. And here's that weekly open. Once again, you can see the price action there. Rats. Okay, green rats, get ready. 82 pip range. Now, I believe earlier in the week, I mentioned something about hitting the weekly pivot, and we did that today, and all the way back down to the monthly open. As far as the daily pivots, looks like we've got 2 missed pivots this month and 1 last month, 3 back in May. And we just take a quick here. You see we've got a couple of missed weekly pivots here this year. So the thing about the pivots, a trader was having problems with the pivots. It's, you know, he said understanding the system. There's really not much of a system to it. It's when price opens, if it's below the pivot, you want to go long. And as you can see here, you would have scratched that trade or it would have just hit your stop loss. Didn't get any traction. Now, that being said, if you come back, let's see, here to the buy zone, you can see that the pivot was right near the buy zone. That's why you hear me say not much of a bias. So if that pivot is within open plus or minus 10 pips, you really don't have much of a bias based on the pivot. So you need something else to indicate a trade. Not that I'm filtering out those trades, but you know, so if it's only like 1 pip off the open, I mean, you know, pretty much it usually hits it. Price action, we've seen this over and over. Wick zone, ditto. Horizontal lines, and we've seen those too. So, fellow traders, I really hope you had a profitable month and have a safe Halloween, and come back soon because it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it.